Okay.
If you don't want
Sure.
to, you don't have to.
All right.
You know? It's totally up to you. What's up, you guys? Welcome to the video. I am super excited. You guys know that these are my favorite videos. So I have my friend Noah here. He has an absolutely amazing story. So what this video is, it's gonna be him sharing a story, man. So if you wanna kind of introduce yourself, you know, to say what you do, and if you could just start basically from the beginning of your story, that'd be great, man.
Sure. Hey guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
And yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy journey. Sometimes even too long to even share. And so, yeah, I mean, I'll give you a little bit of a recap of what it has been.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm standing here today. I'm 171 is what I typically maintain. I started this journey at 356 pounds.
Jeez.
And imagine being 143 pounds, playing professional youth soccer in the best shape of your life, known as the athlete, just having that title. And a year later, walking away from soccer, walking away from dreams, and being 356 pounds.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
That's the story.
That's insane. So I mean, how did you go from that? You know, how does that happen?
I get that question a lot. For me, you know, I'm extremely driven when it comes to goals. So if I don't have a goal that's set in my life, it's very, very hard for me to stay on track. And I was in Brazil and I had the choice to either play professional there, sign contracts, or come back to the States for college. And I had my high school sweetheart back in the States, and I got priorities mixed up. And I came back to the States. I walked away from soccer to save the relationship, lost the relationship, lost the scholarship opportunities, and sure enough, put on 210 pounds in less than, it was 11 months.
Wow, 210 pounds in 11 months. That's unreal. I do have a question. So did you ever struggle with weight growing up? Like, was that ever an issue? Were you always kind of leaner growing up?
You know, as a kid, obviously, like, I was chubby, you know, like young. But once I started playing sports and really taking soccer seriously, there was nothing else, you know. And the hardest part, though, was going from that, you know, and then to 356 pounds, and then seeing everybody. See, I moved to California from Texas, and I went back for a funeral of one of my closest friends who got killed by a drunk driver. That was in 2010. And I remember walking in to be the pallbearer for his funeral, and nobody recognized me.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how painful it is to hear the chitter chatter of everybody saying, "Oh my gosh, what has he done?" More talk about me than about my closest friend who passed. So with that, you know, addiction set in heavy. There was no way for me to escape the realities of where I was at all. I could not face myself. And the only way I could escape was with alcohol, with food, with drugs. And it was a revolving door. So if it wasn't the alcohol, it was the food. If it wasn't the food, it was the drugs. If it wasn't the drugs, it was the sex. You know, and it was spiraling like that. And it gripped my life.
Yeah.
That was going into 2010. I had maintained it for 3 years. And after that funeral, I said, okay, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And that was my motive. My motive was to completely prove everyone wrong. And when you're not doing it for you,
Yeah.
if you're doing it to be accepted, if you're doing it to feel good about how people see you, it won't be sustained. It took me a year. I lost 143 pounds in a year. So a year later, I went from 356.
What a roller coaster, you know?
Roller coaster that is just like, you know, and it doesn't even end there.
Yeah.
Like, this is just the beginning, guys. This is just the beginning. Sorry, so a year later, I had lost 143 pounds. And You know, for me, I had the inner athlete in me. You know, your body doesn't forget that. But I had forgotten what it was to work hard. I had forgotten what it was to be dedicated. Because for 3 years I was not, you know, when it came to, you know, living, you know. And so after I lost that weight, what I realized is that most people didn't even care that I had lost the weight. You know, I was expecting to, you know, see these people again and everybody just embrace me and
have like a parade thrown for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case. And that was painful, you know. And we get into the story a little more. What I will say is that over those 3 years that I maintained the weight loss, I worked in fashion. So I was a celebrity designer. I worked with every name in the book when it comes to leather jackets. And that was really the facade I hid behind, was the money, the materialism, all of that. That is what kind of gave me some type of self-worth, which really, that's the last thing you want to root your self-worth in, is materialistic things.
Yeah, absolutely.
The last thing. And as I was doing that though, and I'd lost, you know, the weight, and, you know, I realized that I still was completely empty on the inside.
And can I ask, at this time, were you struggling with addictions at all still, or? Okay.
I struggled, like little dips and dabs of things, but I felt like, oh, I've got this under control. Once the drive and the being inspired and being motivated just was dissipating more and more and more, I started to just get right back into the addiction.
Okay. 9
months later, I put on all the weight back again.
You put on that much weight in 9 months?
I went back to 356 pounds.
Wow. And so when that's happening, I'm always very curious about this. So when that's happening, what's going through your head, right? Like, have you already was it already a choice, like you said, I'm kind of over this, and you just kind of accepted the weight gain? Or did you kind of notice the weight coming on slowly and then just be like, I'm done. Like, I give up, you know?
It was a spiral.
Okay.
You know, for me, I'm an all or nothing kind of person, and that's a beautiful strength to have.
Yeah,
but it's a double-edged sword. You know, when we have that all or nothing personality, it can be used for good, but when it goes in the other direction, it can turn the tides. And it happened so fast, and I was so lost in the addiction at that time. In that 9 months, I put back on all the weight, and in 2011, I was downtown Los Angeles. It had a beautiful penthouse, and again, skyline, just beautiful. But I was so empty. People would look at me and with my lifestyle and what I had, and they would say, "Whoa, like he's doing so good for himself." But I was so empty. And 2011, I took the last handle of vodka that I had, and it's hard to relive this. And took a whole bottle of painkillers. Because life wasn't worth living. Life was not. I couldn't see going through the process again to lose the weight, seeing the torn relationships with my family, and we are so close. The bond is unbreakable, you would think, but my addictions were breaking everything. The pressure, I mean, you name it. And I took that bottle of painkillers, and I went out to the balcony, and I had one foot off the rail, and Ricardo, one of my closest friends, and to this day, I texted him, you know, during this time and just said, I can't make it. I'm not gonna, life isn't worth it. He rushed to my place, and he saved my life.
Wow.
And one thing I'll never forget is that he sat there the next day And he said, Noah, if there is anyone that can do this and that can break the past habits and things that have held you down for so long, you can. You are so capable, but you have got to believe in yourself. And if you can't believe in yourself, look at those around you who believe in you. And that was like a dagger for me, you know. I don't know if I should keep rolling or
no,
if
yeah,
you have,
absolutely.
You know,
I mean, I like with these videos, I've said it before, but I never, like, I didn't know all this, you know. So this is all news to me. So I'm just kind of blown away. I didn't know any of that. So I mean, I'm glad that you're here with us today. You know, you have that day, and what happens after that? Like, how did you? Was it like a sobering moment, like, okay, I need to change my life, or was it like, you know, you had to fix this before you could fix this before you could fix this kind of thing? Because you said you're dealing with addiction. You're obviously probably dealing with food addiction at this time too. So what was the first things you dealt with? And then I guess, like, I'm kind of interested to know what were the hardest things to break. You know, what was the hardest habits that you were dealing with that you had to break at that point?
Sure. That feeling that I had that day, it stuck with me for about 2 weeks. And I was back to addiction 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And I was in a pit. I didn't feel I could get out. I mean, you would think after having such a moment, as we all do in our lives, that bring us to our knees, that change would be imminent. But
I think that's awesome, though. That, obviously not awesome that you went through it, but that you are able to speak about that, because I feel like with kind of like with Hollywood and just everything, people say you have that moment, right, and then everything's better. But for you, like you just said, like, you had that moment and it wasn't just fixed right away, and like everything was candies and lollipops and butterflies. You know, it was you still had some work to do. Yeah. Obviously, so you know, 2 weeks later you're dealing with addiction. Let's just keep going. Yeah. Back
again. One thing I want to say, you know, to the viewers and I want to speak right to you guys, is that motivation and inspiration, it flows like the wind. It goes like up and down. But as soon as it comes in, it's gone. Motivation and inspiration is not what's going to keep you steady on your journey. Consistency, dedication, discipline on the days that you don't feel like it is what's going to keep you on your journey and striving forward. So 2 weeks later, I was back in the pits of addiction. And it was hard because my business and the fashion stuff was booming, you know, and I mean, we were doing the world tour with Justin Bieber, like just crazy stuff. So that was all fueling the lifestyle even more. Yeah. It took me till 2013, January 2013, January 2013. To lose everything, and I mean everything financially, to say, if I don't get sober now, and if I don't work to change my life right now, nothing will. I had the suicide attempts. I've had so much help and support that's all gone now. I stand here today. I am 4 years sober. Of course, you know, I've lost 190 pounds. And more important than any transformation, and you know, you see all these weight loss transformations, but more important than any of that, like, if you can get your mind and your heart in sync, the body will follow. Body can be a byproduct. But if you can't get both of those, you will not sustain whatever you want to do when it comes to, you know, weight loss. But so that's a little bit of a nutshell.
A little bit of a nutshell. That's like a bombshell right there. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say I relate because I've never dealt with addiction like that, but I've talked about it on the channel before. My mom was an addict. We were taken away from her when I was a child, and so I know how much that can tear your reality apart, right? And it really is like, you for some people, hitting rock bottom can change their life. Like for my mom, when we were taken away from her, that's when she changed her life. And luckily, after a year, we were able to be put back with her. You know, so like for some people, rock bottom does, you know, but for you, obviously, there was some other things you still had to deal with. And I mean, I appreciate you sharing that. I do. I'm just kind of interested as far as, you know, this time with the weight loss. What would you say is different now? Because you obviously had lost 143 pounds before, and then you gained it back. And obviously, like as you guys heard the story, there was other things that kind of probably helped that happen again, you know, with the addiction and stuff. But I'm interested to know what was different this time losing the weight, and what do you feel like is different now that you? Because I mean, we've been talking today. I feel like you have no issue thinking about going back to that. Like you never go back to that. Why? You know what I'm saying? I'm really interested as to, was it the way you dieted? Was it different? You know, I'm just interested in that kind of aspect as well.
I mean, when you're talking about like details and things like that, I mean, obviously, you know, I learned that chronic cardio is not good. You can be, you know, if you're doing an hour of cardio every single day and to get into the shape that you want to be, you're going to have to maintain an hour every single day. That, for most, is not reasonable. So that was one, you know, that was a big thing. You know, obviously the nutrition. You know, I am a nutritionist now, and I work with transformation journeys, and it does not matter what you do in the gym, with your cardio, with and I'm sure you guys hear this all the time, but nutrition is everything. And I mean, I think that those two things, you know, I learned a lot more about that. But I also switched my thinking into saying, I mean, like most journeys don't start with finding your why or, you know, what's your purpose? You know, like you're just starting out. You're like, you got so much other stuff to think about. How can you even think about why you want to be healthy? Because it's hard sometimes to identify that. But as you go through the journey, if you can identify and grasp your why, it will give you so much purpose to not just get to your goal, but, you know, push past that. And, you know, today, you know, being able to maintain, you know, I want to lead by example. You know, I really do. And I more than that, you know, I really think that seeing other people's lives impacted, not just when they see what I've been through, but how do you carry yourself forward after all that into today, you know? And that's something that I really, you know, stand firm on. And that's given me, it's not been a pressure to, you better look this way or you better, because that's negative. I have a great accountability, you know, in that. And that is one other thing, you know, support system is huge when it comes to journeys and weight loss and all that. It's massive. But if your support system is your crutch for far too long and they step away, you're going to fall right on your face. So there has to be some time that clicks in that is, you know, that moment where you say, I'm doing this for me. I want to live life to the fullest, because life is so worth living. And I say that all the time, and I really mean that. You know,
that was powerful, man. I had no idea. I mean, I know I had like little snippets, obviously. I know your story a little bit, but that was, I can't even imagine. Like, I mean, I'm sure that you could sit here and talk forever about everything that you've been through, but I will ask you one last question. And this is one question that I ask everyone that I do a little interview with. If you could, you know, speaking to the people out there, someone that might be just starting their journey, and they might feel like they can't do it, or that they've tried so many times and failed, like, what would you say to that person? What would you say to them?
Gosh, I've rehearsed this. Well, there's really two things, and I actually put that out today on social media because I felt it was really important. Two pieces of advice. If I can give two.
Absolutely.
I could give 10, but I'll give 2. Just 2.
And the video is 4 hours long.
No, but the 2 pieces of advice, you know, number 1, you really cannot change or rewrite yesterday, no matter what you do. What you're doing right now, you can't. So if you continue to hold on to it and allow it to be like chains around your ankles, it is going to drag you down. Focus on what you're doing today, because that is going to impact tomorrow. So that's number one. And number two is that, and I said this earlier in the video, but about motivation, about inspiration, you know, don't lean so heavy on that, because there are going to be days that you do not feel like you can do it, like you're not strong enough, and that you're not motivated. And so find that consistency, because it'll become a part of you. It will really become like a reflex as you step forward, and you do have days where you're just feeling like it's impossible. Mm-hmm. And it's not impossible. And you are worth it. And don't let anyone ever tell you you're not.
It's cool hanging out with somebody and having someone on the channel that I relate to so much, because if you've been following me on social media recently, I've been just calling out what I'm sick of seeing, you know, and it's cool hanging out with someone that really, you're almost like a mirror to me. Like when the way that you preach weight loss and helping people with their lives, because I completely agree with all the points that you made. So it's been really cool having you on the channel, and I mean, I'm honored that you woke up at 5:30 in the morning to drive down here. So I really appreciate it. So if you guys are at all more interested in Noah, I will have, obviously all the links will be down in the description if you guys want to follow him. Honestly, like, I really believe in what he's doing, and I think that he can help a lot of people. So for me, it's always an honor to have like-minded people on the channel. But with all that being said, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. There was one other thing that Noah wanted to say. What was it?
Wait, look how buff I am. One thing I did want to say before we go.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
To you is that, you know, and I'm sure you get a lot of praise. Of course, you get the haters on the other side, and you can't please everybody. But I just want to encourage you to continue to use your platform with purpose, like real talk, because there are not enough people with platforms out there that are utilizing it for good. Not utilizing it to glorify yourself, not utilizing it to sell product, but really to utilize it for good, like you're doing, and touching people's lives. And I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. So I hope and I pray that you continue to do that. So.
Will do, man.
Does this end with a hug or what? All right, man.
Obey the warning signs, and when there are flashing lights or wigwags, don't attempt to cross until they come to a complete stop.